Okay. Hello, everyone. We're going to be interviewing the first place winners of the writing competition. Um, so everybody here is me. I'm the writing club president. Alpha, you can wave, Alpha. She's the Girl Up president. The Girl Up is a club. And Mrs. Beckley, you can wave too. She's a physics and algebra teacher, and she also judged for the competition. And Barbara is the winner for the first place in the women's part of the competition. And she's also the writing club vice president, so she's been helping out with this interview. And Daniel is the winner for the men's first place competition. So, yeah. First place winner for the competition. Yeah, okay.
So the prompt was Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus by relationship counselor John Gray is a book describing common relationship problems between men and women. Its title suggests that men and women are from completely different planets. Indeed, most people would agree that men and women don't understand each other very well, whether that's because of cultural stereotypes, biology, or anything else. So we decided, the Writing Club and the Girl Up Club, to organize a writing competition which aimed to deepen the understanding between two genders. So they had to write any piece of writing that's any genre, illustrating their thoughts on their respective gender. So yeah.
So Barbara's piece that won first place is called The Color Pink, and it's a descriptive piece that describes the colored pink and its impact on her life. She wrote it as a response to a prompt in Writing Club, which was to write a description piece that describes a color but never uses a word for that color, which is a super challenging prompt. I don't know if you've ever tried it, but it's really hard, and she did a really good job. And then Daniel's winning piece is called A Singular Half. It's a poem describing the roles of men and women metaphorically. And the poem is structurally beautiful. I loved it because it describes women and then men, and then connects them by describing how they're incomplete until they see each other's world. Um, and you can read both of those on Wattpad. The links are in the description below, so you can see that.
Well, Daniel, I think I'll go first. And I thought it was interesting because when I read the poem, I and everyone else that has read it has immediately assumed that the flower was talking about the woman and the mountain was the man. But you didn't actually tell us that in the poem. So I guess I'm wondering, how do we know who's who?
Well, I was relying on, qualities that were generally attributed to their respective genders. For example, a woman would be delicate, or like other qualities like that, and a man, I say, like, would be independent. So, and I was really playing off of stereotypes, not necessarily agreeing with them, but I was just I was relying on your previous understanding for knowledge of the stereotypes to really direct you to which one's which.
Yeah, I think it seems like it says more about the reader than it does about the writer, that we immediately go to those assumptions. So thank you, that's great.
So my first question is for Barbara. So basically, growing up, you're a baby. If you're a girl, you get all pink stuff. If you're a boy, all of your clothes and all of the things in your room are blue. So it's almost as if from a young age, we were being taught what meant to be a girl exactly and what meant to be a boy. And similarly to your story, many girls struggle with their identity, especially when how you feel and who you are does not align with what everyone else is telling you. So, what do you think is one lie that you've been told about what it means to be a girl?
Well, I kind of go into it in the writing, but I think that many people envision, like Daniel said, women like delicate flowers, that they're delicate, that they must stay home, take care of their children because they're caregivers. So I would think that that's a lie because I think women are so much more multifaceted than what gender stereotypes have set out for us. And sure, there can be caregivers and there can be delicate women, but I don't think everybody should be put into that mold because it's completely disregarding an entire gender that may not identify with it.
I totally agree with you. I don't think women can be put into one category. You know, every girl is different. So it's not fair to just say, oh, women are that. But yes. And my first question for Daniel is, how has the dynamic in your family affected your portrayal of men and women?
So I'd say it has affected my portrayal of men and women because mostly I think from my grandparents, because both of my maternal and paternal grandparents are divorced, and so I guess that has really just taught me how I guess because I've seen some similarities with like how my grandfathers act or how my grandmothers act. So I guess that has really affected how I see the genders. You know, in a way that like certain act like a specific way, like they act very similarly, and so I think that has affected my.
Yeah, I agree with you too, because especially when I see when I look at my parents, I see that my dad has some characteristics that my mom doesn't. But at the end of the day, those characteristics do complement each other, and then it works out pretty well. So yeah, they're great parents, by the way.
Barb, I was wondering, how has pink affected you in your life? Why do you think it's important?
So I think I don't know. This also I also talk about this in the writing, but entire like wardrobe consisted of pink, and then I identified as like a super girly girl, and for me it was because I was sort of rejecting this mold that had been like set upon me from a young age, I think.
Okay. I think just thinking of the color pink, it's a kind of color that gets dirty easily. Unlike blue that, has many darker tones to it, pink is pretty pink and it shows. You have to kind of just sit in pink, sit and be good and not muss your dress. Um, I was also wondering though, to flip your thinking a little bit, what do you think blue? Does blue affect our young men? Not necessarily the color, but I'm talking more generally about our stereotypes.
Well, I think it's different for men and women because women have always kind of fought to have like the same as men. Like we've fought to stop wearing skirts and wear pants. We fought to like start working, but I feel like men have never fought to wear skirts. Like I feel like most men don't wouldn't want to do that, you know? So I don't know if that's because society has taught them, oh no, women are weaker, like stay here, or because they're just like comfortable where they are. So I think that blue does put a sort of stereotype on men also, that they can't expand their horizons and maybe like show a more feminine side to them.
Mm, good.
Okay, my first question is to Daniel. The title of your piece is a singular half, and it's also the final line in the poem, which effectively makes it stand out a lot in the reader's mind. So, what is it? What is important to you about that phrase?
So I guess it's important to me because in my poem I referenced that they were both satisfied but they were incomplete, and so really you can. I guess what I was trying to say is that you can survive like more so on the emotional aspect because humans need to interact and connect with each other. So I guess I was trying to say that more so people can survive in their own separate worlds, but they can't really live without connecting with each other and without forming relationships. So I guess that was what I was trying to portray with with a link.
Yeah, that's really true. And it's something that sometimes you don't see until you get older in life, but then you start noticing I actually really need other people. And the way God made us unique to between men and women, that relationship is unique among other relationships. And I thought that was interesting how you pointed that out. So my next question is to Barbara. One of the judges mentioned that you mix poetry and narration in an interesting way in your piece. And it's a plotless description piece, so it's I think the genre really fits. But you use some poetic language and rhetorical questions that make for a really reflective tone. And I don't know if I guess my question is, did you plan for it to come across that way, or did it just kind of happen? Because I know that happens a lot in my writing.
So actually, if you look at a lot of my journaling and a lot of my more personal writing, I always express myself in that way. And I don't really know why it happened. Maybe it's so that I don't have to think too abstractly, but also not too forwardly, which I guess is a little weird, but it always comes off that way. And even if I don't plan it, it's just the way that I feel the most comfortable expressing myself, I guess.
Well, nice. I liked it.
Daniel, I was noticing when I reread your poem for the 5th, 6th, 7th time, which, by the way, I really liked it. It was so well written. But what kind of stuck out to me, like the 6th or 7th time, was your imagery of a mountain. And then I noticed that the flower was actually in a valley. And so we have this mountain towering over the flower, but even more so because the flower is down into a valley. And I guess I was wondering is that intentional on your part? Does it have a meaning, or did it just work out that way because you were thinking of a mountain?
So I wasn't trying to inferiorize the role of women in any way. It was just more so to symbolize, how men have often put themselves over women historically, and also how like they lowered like women. Like the other day, me and my mom were like watching just like reading some ads of the like early 1900s, and they were like, they were like so sexist, and there was one that was like a woman's head in like a carpet, and like the man. It wasn't at all, to make the roles of men superior to the roles of women. Just that to symbolize how historically that's how it has been. Not that it's a good thing, but just like that representation.
Yeah, very interesting. Thank you.
So my question for Daniel is, a common misconception about what it means to be a woman is that we are delicate flowers, and then if we are assertive and confident in our own skin, it's frowned upon. Like, I don't know, people look at it badly. But then when you think about men, they're usually described as strong, tough, confident, all of the things that you wouldn't necessarily use to describe a woman. And then when it came down to writing your poem, there has been a lot of talk about like the role of women and men in your poem specifically. But did you use these stereotypes? Like, did you have it influence your writing so it would come off as ironic in a way?
Yeah, I would say that the role, like the qualities that I assigned to the genders, um, are really, when you think about, like, it's associated to those respective genders, but it was meant to be ironic because, for example, like when I referenced the mountain and being like it being above the woman or the rose, it was more so that like the mountain thought, because a lot of times I think like men like to even though we don't feel confident, we think like we need to be like strong, we need to be like above and all that, like the boys don't cry. And but in that we like we don't get rid of our insecurities. They're not gone. It's just that we're trying to project ourselves to a point or to a standard that we don't feel like we meet. And so but I also say that, that like the mountain is lonely, and so it was meant to be ironic, because although, like, especially with men, I don't know, I'm not a woman, so I don't know what like women think about this, but I've seen in my life that like men try to elevate themselves as a way to suppress their feelings for themselves. So even though like feelings of insecurity and all that. So it was meant to be ironic in a way.
Yeah, I agree. Sometimes when we try to act strong and tough and like we have everything together, I guess we close ourselves off from everyone else, and then we do end up being lonely, which is not what we want, especially now. So yeah, I really liked your poem too.
Okay, my next question is to Barbara. In your piece, I really loved the subtle irony. It was really subtle that you included, like in the last sentence especially, where it says pale, delicate, quiet, and pretty. Femininity, my identity. After throughout the whole piece, you rejected it and had this whole discussion about it. And this really captures the irony of what we're taught to believe as women and our actual feelings on the subject. I mean, obviously, it depends on the person. But you didn't express your feelings directly. You did it in a really roundabout way, which I thought was interesting and also really effective, the way you did it. And it reflects the complexity of the conflict that you've set up, because it is complex because of the way society reflects on us. And was there a reason you chose to approach it this way rather than another way?
Well, I kind of went into it like as a girl who still didn't know like if she was pale, delicate, and pretty, or if not. And I also didn't want to like disregard all the people that kind of did like that name for themselves or did identify with that. So like I kind of went into it with the idea of like blank canvas, and then like the protagonist is
So my last question for Barbara is, the pressure that you felt when you were younger, did it come from seeing how sure your friends were of themselves, or what exactly caused the color pink to have such an impact in your life?
well, I think it did come from school because everyone in elementary is like, what's your favorite color? What's your favorite color? And then suddenly you start feeling a little bit like insecure, questioning what your answers are. So I think that's why I attributed that like conflict to the color pink, because I think that's when I kind of realized, oh, like pink means something. And it's like who I am kind of, or what I've been attributed to, like, gender reveals, it's always pink for the girl. So I think that's where it came from. And then I started like connecting that color to my personal conflict.
Oh, okay. Yes. Thank you, Barbara.
Okay, and then the last question is to Daniel from me. In the third stanza of your poem, which you kind of use to connect the roles of men and women, because the first stanza is about women and the second stanza is about men, and then you connect them in the last one, which is a really cool structure. I like it. And you say, for what is a mountain's majesty without a spectator, and a rose's beauty without an admirer, which really keys in to the concept of being seen, appreciated, and I mean, it's implied that understood too, because of spectator, admirer, which is a theme I thought was really interesting that you kept in that stanza, in order for the relationship for it to be complete. And why did you choose to focus on this in the connecting stanza?
Well, I really thought that we could be everything to ourselves in our own world, but to a certain extent, it's also important to take into consideration what other people think of. Not necessarily to the point where you listen and do everything that they tell you, or that you take into account everything that they think of you. But it's important to realize that, again, going back to the emotional connection, that we need someone to acknowledge us in order for us to really know that we're doing something right or something wrong. Like, for example, like for toddlers, if they go around scratching or writing on the walls, they're not going to know it's wrong unless a parent acknowledges it or tells them, like, that it's wrong. That's how we sort of get our direction, I'd say. So it's important, especially in the roles of gender, for to get acknowledgement and recognition from each other, so that could help us in our own path.
Well, thank you. And that's the end of the interview. We've asked all the questions. So for any viewers, you can make sure to read the pieces on Wattpad. The links are in the description. And that's all. Everybody can say goodbye.